Okay. Hey y'all, my name is Ray, and I am creating a documented mini series that will hopefully help people get through the motions. Okay, I'm 44, I got laid off, I am unemployed, and so what is next? And I'm sure that there's a lot of us that are navigating this economic climate with these same thoughts and unfortunately this same experience. And so I thought to document this to hopefully provide some people with some options, some tips, some help, some encouragement, maybe some laughter until we navigate this all the way through. So, a little bit about me. I have about 16 years of experience in business operations, enterprise operations. And prior to those 16 years, my experience goes back to financial and consumer lending. And so I had 10 years of experience there. And I was laid off one time before in 2007, 2008 during the recession. And that was definitely a time. That was my first professional layoff. I wasn't really sure what to do, and there was just a lot going on in the economy at the time. So that was a little scary. But from that, I pivoted into commercial real estate and operations, and that has been a pretty steady industry. And so I've been fortunate enough to have secured employment during that time, and I haven't had to worry about it. And about 4.5, almost 5 years ago, I ended up joining a tech company, but I joined their global real estate division. And so I managed the headquarters that was in Atlanta, Georgia. And I will say I've never worked for a tech firm before, but what I have noticed is that tech firms typically have very high attrition. They have a lot of turnover and they do have a lot of layoffs. And so during my time with this company, that is something that I experienced a lot of. Fortunately, in my 4+ years there, I did not lose employment until recently. And, but it was something that I experienced, and it was a little scary because it just feels so volatile. You just don't know when or if the day is going to come. And my day finally came. And I was shocked. I was shocked. My heart dropped to my stomach, to my asshole. Like, I was just shocked. And I kind of will tell you guys how that happened. So, in February of this year, because I've been unemployed for some months, in February of this year, we were supposed to learn, the employees of the company were supposed to learn, I guess, our fate in our employment. The company a couple of years prior had talked about splitting the companies and a few different of the businesses within the companies. And they did that. And the split was supposed to be finalized, which it was June of 2026. And so in February, we were supposed to learn if you were going to go with the new company, if you were going to stay with the existing company, or if your role would be eliminated. And unfortunately, my role was eliminated. And I remember thinking that my job was secure only because for 4+ years, I had never faced a layoff before. So I was like, oh, I'm good. Like, I'm Gucci. I don't have nothing to worry about, is what my thoughts were. And of course, in the back of my mind, I still am a little nervous, but I was pretty secure that my job was secure, and it wasn't. And so I got a meeting invite from my boss. And if I'm not mistaken, he reached out a little bit before that, asked me if I had time to meet with him because he sat in another state. And I was like, yeah, not a problem, right? Always. And like, my heart kind of was beating a little bit at that time. But then when I checked the team's invite and the scheduling, it was only him and I. So that further identified that, like, okay, everything is going to be good. This is just a regular one-on-one. And I remember joining the call, and as soon as the screen popped up and the meeting started, there was a woman from HR at the bottom, and then my manager was there too. And I remember, like, my heart just dropped. Like, oh my God, I already knew what it was. And part of me knew what it was because, number one, like I said, I worked for this company for many years. And so I have built relationships with people who have lost their jobs, who have come back to the company as well, or who have been laid off, or their friends have been laid off. And so I heard about how it looks in the process and how it goes. So immediately I knew what time it was. And for whatever reason, my computer worked fine that entire day until I got that call. And for some reason, the volume wasn't working. So now I'm trying to hurry up and join the call. from my work cell phone. But at the same time, I'm nervous. So I'm trying to calm myself down. My thoughts are running through my mind. And I remember telling myself, like, Ray, God is in control. Like, there is nothing you could do, girl. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have mattered. I could have faked a heart attack right there. At the end of the day, my fate was what it was. God was in control. There was nothing I could do. And so, I just had to face what I had to face. And I don't know how many calls my manager had like that prior to talking to me, because our call was in the afternoon. But you could tell he was nervous. And I don't know if he was nervous because he wasn't sure how I was going to take it, if he was just nervous because it was an uncomfortable conversation. I don't really know, but he was definitely nervous. And he was trying to get through the spiel. I don't know if there's like a written script, but he was trying to hurry up and get through it. And I remember him trying to get through it and then handing it off to HR so that she can get through her script. And I remember telling both of them, like, wait a minute, let's have a conversation. And so when we had a conversation and they allowed me to talk, I just thanked them. And I thank them just for giving me notice, sufficient notice, because they gave me more than 60 days notice. Like I said, I worked for this company for years and I've seen so many layoffs. And so if my time finally came at year 4+, okay, you know what I mean? Like, it's unfortunate, but I've seen people lose their jobs and get laid off within months of them starting, within a year of them starting. I've seen people get laid off with no notice. They'll come to work, everything is good, go to lunch, return from lunch, and get laid off. So, no notice, no severance, no nothing. And that just wasn't my case. The company did me very well, so I cannot complain. It's just, it sucked that in this economy, I was not going to be employed. And because I'm an experienced professional, my salary and my target salary is high. You know what I mean? So I feel like it's harder to get those types of jobs because those types of jobs are not just sitting on the market, and the competition is very heavy and the economy is freaking crazy. So it was a lot of like, what am I going to do? And I know that I heard the conversation, but at the same time, I kind of didn't hear the conversation. And I remember them just telling me that everything was going to be okay, and they appreciated how I responded and how positive I was, which reaffirmed to them that everything was going to be okay. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, So I think I was, emotional for a few days for sure. And it wasn't just constant emotion, but when I thought about it from time to time, like the emotions definitely sank in, because it's like, well, what am I going to do? And then I have to think about who am I going to tell and share the information with, because in this time, I can't tell this to people who are pessimistic. I can't, because I'm already in a fragile space, and I need to make sure that mentally and emotionally I stay lifted and I stay positive and I stay encouraged. And then I'm kind of embarrassed, even though I know that this had nothing to do with my performance, because they paid me out over 100% of my annual bonus, and they reiterated that, and I got letters of recommendation, etc. Most of the time, if I'm not talking about working out or working or traveling, I don't know what else I'm talking about. A lot of my life revolved around working, and you're catching up with people, or people, or you build so many relationships at this stage in your life from work, at work, because that's where you spend most of your time. So I was literally just sitting there, it was just a little sad, you know what I mean? And then you'd see the news and you see social media and you'd see people's personal situation and how their unemployment is going or what has happened to them. And a lot of it could just be very draining. You know what I mean? Like, it could be very draining, very sad. And I did not want to be in that space. And so I really needed to figure out how I was going to pivot. What was I going to do next? How I was going to stay positive, and how I was going to remember that God is in control. Because at the end of the day, I am working for God. I'm trying to please Him. And not to say that I'm perfect, because child, I am not. But I know that everything that I have is because of Him, and He's going to take me out of this. It's not my forever step. Unemployment is not my forever step. So I just have to remember that. And sometimes when you're in the thick of things and you're going through it, it's hard to remain positive, and it's hard to remember that. You know what I mean? So I wanted to share some of the things that, sorry, my phone rang. So I wanted to share some of the tips with you guys that have helped me get through this process. You know, outside of applying, what have I been doing to just maintain during this time? I have been unemployed for some months. My last paycheck was at the end of May, so it's been some time. How am I going to navigate through the process? What am I going to do? What am I going to do to build a routine for myself? How am I going to apply? What am I going to do to update my resume? And I'll tell you, during this time too, especially like with applying for jobs, I have gotten quite a few job offers for jobs that I never applied for. People have reached out to me on my cell phone, through text, through email. People have reached out to me through LinkedIn. And a lot of it has been, well, not a lot of it, but enough of it has been scam. I've even talked to people and met with people who I realized later were trying to capitalize on me being unemployed. They were trying to help me pay for their recruiting services that guaranteed that I would get a job within my pay range or more if I paid them X amount of dollars. And it's just like, girl, if I had X amount of dollars to pay you, I wouldn't need to be looking for no damn job. I just need people to stop. So I figured maybe I can help other people through this time. Maybe we can encourage each other through this time while we get through it, because none of us are going to be in this space for forever. So that's kind of where we are. So this will be like a little documented series. Like I said, I'm still unemployed. I'm still looking. I've gained some traction, but nothing has been finalized by any means. And so hopefully we can all get through this together successfully and positively, which we will. So until next time, I'll call y'all later. Bye.